Hello. For the first time in South Korea's history as a democracy, the country's president is being removed from office. In the past few hours, the Constitutional Court has ruled that the impeachment of Park Geun-hye should be confirmed. She's embroiled in a corruption scandal. She may now face a criminal trial on 13 counts, including soliciting bribes and allowing a close friend to profit from her connections with the presidency. The decision was met with cheering in the streets from her opponents, but her supporters were also in evidence there have been clashes between the two sides. There'll now be a presidential election within 60 days. Our correspondent Steve Evans is in Seoul with the latest.
It's devastating, really. This is the first time in the 30 years there's been democracy here where the sitting president has been kicked out of office. And this president, Park Geun-hye, remember, is the daughter of the founding president. You could say it's a bit of a test for democracy. There have been big protests every Saturday night and many other nights against her. There have been pretty big protests in her favour. So the country's split, but at the end of it all, the highest court in the land has said there was a corrupt relationship. And the centre of that corrupt relationship is her best friend, money going from corporations to foundations run by the best friend, and the implication that influences going back via the president.
As you say, it's been very controversial up to now. What happens next, and how controversial, how much dispute is there likely to be about that?
I don't think there'll be much dispute about the judgment. It was 8-0 amongst the justices. Had it gone the other way, I think there would have been a very difficult situation. There are a lot of police on the street at the moment. In terms of the election, though, we don't know who's going to win the election. But all the indications are that there may well be a move towards the left. If that is so, the attitude of the South Korean government towards North Korea may change. There are people in this country who expect a left-wing government, for example, to seek to reopen the joint industrial complex run right on the border between South and North Korea. Maybe talks about freedom of movement. Now, how that would then fit in with the Trump administration in Washington as North Korea gets closer to having nuclear weapons capable of hitting the US might be difficult.
Just tell us more, Steve, about the background here in this corruption scandal. The court had to decide whether she did something wrong, of course, but also whether it was so wrong that she broke the Constitution. And it's that latter that they seem to have gone for.
They looked, Mike, they looked at 13 charges, and some of them seemed not that important. Like, she was absent from public view on the day of the Sewol disaster, the sinking of the ferry, for 8 hours. They looked at that and decided, look, it's not the president's job to be involved in raising the Sewol or the Sewol rescue. But the central allegation is that Chae Soon-sil, her best friend and kind of mentor, really, over 40 years, over 4 decades, had 2 foundations. And those foundations took money, and also from corporations, things like a gift of a horse went to Ms. Chae's daughter. And the court decided that that was a corrupt relationship, in that the corporations had done that because they thought they were going to get influence back. Separately from this particular proceeding today, there are criminal proceedings going on against about 30 people, including the top person at Samsung. And again, it's that central relationship which is alleged to be corrupt, where the president of the country brokered a deal whereby money, lots of money, nearly $40 million in one case, went from the corporation to her best pal in return for the government putting its weight behind various changes that Samsung wanted. So you could have argued, you could have been a skeptic before and said, you know, there's no real, what's the real proof of this? We know the money went. Samsung says, well, you know, there's no proof of an improper relationship. The Constitutional Court did not agree. The Constitutional Court thought that the relationship was gravely illegal and against the Constitution and breached the trust of the people.
Steve Evans for us there in Seoul. Well, Lee Dong-bok was an opposition party member of South Korea's National Assembly. We can speak to him now in the capital. Lee Dong-bok, good to talk to you. I know there have been very big demonstrations in the capital against the president every Saturday, but there's clearly a lot of activity that we're seeing now on our screens. Can you tell us what's going on there?
Yes, you know, in the wake of the controversial Constitutional Court ruling, impeaching, stripping the incumbent president of the post of office of the presidency, the nation is very dangerously divided, between two groups of people. One group of people saying that the Constitutional Court ruling is not the correct one, whereas the other group is in support of the Constitutional Court ruling. But at the heart of the matter is, just as the correspondent rightly pointed out, there are, a great amount of concern among many people about where the nation is headed to in the aftermath of the impeached president leaves the presidential mansion. And we are now looking forward to see a presidential election in 2 months' time.
And I know sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I know the US has nearly, 30,000 troops stationed in South Korea. But it's a very difficult time for the South to be so unstable at a time when North Korea is in such an aggressive phase, isn't it?
Correctly. And I think the United States is going to be confronting a critical issue of decision-making with regard to how to deal with North Korea at a time when South Korea is now going into a very dangerous political turmoil.
Just briefly, I know there could now be criminal proceedings against the president. There are 30 or so people, other people also involved in criminal cases, aren't they? How do you expect all that to work out?
No, I think there are less than 10 people who have already been indicted by the special prosecution. And there are possibilities of some more to be additionally indicted. But I don't think the number is going to be growing any larger. But the question is, the special prosecution is now has completed its mission, but the accusations against the president is not yet reaching where the court has a say. So the Constitutional Court ruling today, relieving the president on charges of corruption, it is a little bit too premature in terms of the legal system, where the court should have the final say on whether or not they constitute criminal activities.
Lee Dong-bok, former National Assembly member, thank you very much, and we'll keep an eye there on those pictures from the streets of the South Korean capital. Very tense time at the moment, quite visibly. Thank you very much.